Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to the listening public. Wonderful people here on the island of Nevis, those in St. Kitts, those in the Caribbean. Good evening to our friends and family in the United States and Canada, and those who are in the United Kingdom as well. I know we have regular listeners. Let me also say good evening to our friends in places like Belize who are tuned in and listen to On the Mark. I wish you a pleasant evening, and we're here from 8, starting now, until 10 o'clock this evening, where we hope to have some discussions on matters that are of public importance. This show is, as I like to say, the people's show, and so of course while we put issues on the table for discussion, when the lines open and you have an issue that is material to you, important to you, then we invite you of course to call in and to share your views and opinions on any matter that's impacting your mind. Our rules here are simple. We try to engage in conversation that is uplifting, conversation that edifies those who are listening, and conversation that is respectful. At the end of the day, I don't expect or require that we will agree on everything, but if we must disagree, then let us not be disagreeable. And so we expect at all times to maintain the standards here at VON Radio, where only the best will do. This is VON Radio, the voice of Nevis, and welcome to On the Mark. Let me start the show this evening on a sad note. I believe that all of Nevis and St. Kitts and the region would have had word that we lost an icon in Mr. Uriel Swanston, the Honorable Uriel Swanston. Uriel Swanston, whom I knew as somebody from Zion, was, of course, at some point in Nevis, an iconic figure in our political history. He was someone who was an incredible and an important part of the Nevis Reformation Party, and he would have traversed the highways and byways of this island at a time, I believe, when our politics was particularly difficult. The NRP, as we know, had been established sometime in, I believe it was in 1970, largely to fight against the Labour Party and the Labour regime led by then Premier Bradshaw on St. Kitts, and as a consequence it was fraught with difficulty. They became, I think, the first genuine opposition to the Labour Party in the Federation, or what has become the Federation, and Uriel Swanston was a part of that struggle, led, as we know, by our national hero, Sir Simeon Daniel. And so Uriel Swanston was very much a part of the life and times of this island. He was a businessman, but I think he was best known as a politician, and his brand of politics, I'm told, was particularly fiery. That he was the platform speaker that people went to listen, and he was the one who led the charge, so to speak. He, of course, would have contributed in politics. He would have contributed as a businessman. He would also, of course, have raised a beautiful family. And I would want to join the multitude this evening by expressing my deepest condolences to his entire family and those that he leaves to mourn. I want to mention of the family my very good friend Westel, who's in New York. I want to extend to him my condolences. I also want to mention Garlic, who of course is also somebody who I am close to and quite a celebrity here. He's part of that Swanston family, but indeed the entire family, Kurt, all the sisters, all the family members generally. I want to even remember people like Cavell, good friend of mine, and all. It's a large family. It's an important family here on the island of Nevis, and it's a family that has contributed significantly to the life and times of our island. And so Mr. Uriel Swanston, a great, has gone to the great beyond, and we are to hope that his soul finds eternal rest, and that whatever struggles and illnesses that he might have had, of course, he is now in no more pain and no more difficulties as a consequence of those. So on behalf of all of us here on VON Radio, on my own behalf here and on the Mark, on behalf of my family, I would want to extend deepest condolences to the family of Mr. Uriel Swanston. While I'm saying that, last week I neglected at the top of the show to extend condolences to Mr. Caleb Brown, his family of Mr. Caleb Brown from Brownhill. Somebody called in late in the show and reminded me that I had not done so. I want this week to do so again, to extend deep condolences to the family of Kala Jala Brown, Austin Brown from Brownhill, best known as a cricketer, opening batsman for Nevis, played for Brownhill, but somebody who I think to know Kala was to always know somebody who was peaceful, gentle individual, one whom I've never seen involved in himself in any raucous behavior. And not that he didn't have strong opinions, but he didn't behave in a raucous way. And so I want to extend to the entire family my deepest condolences, all of his siblings, all of his family members, to Mali, to Vera, to everybody, to the whole Brownhill community, the whole Nivision community, the entire cricketing fraternity. I want to extend my deep condolences on the passing of Austin Kala Jala Brown. My fondest memory of Jala was when I was as a boy at the Charlestown Secondary School. I think St. Kitts was playing against Nevis, and we came down and we got on top the wall, climbed the wall to watch the cricket. And I remember that we were chasing a pretty significant total late in the afternoon, and he and Jabba Lawrence were batting, and they really put a licking on St. Kitts and on the St. Kitts bowling. And that is my fondest memory of Kala Brown. And certainly I think that we've seen him play some marvelous innings over the years. And so again, from all of us here, we extend, as we did last week, belatedly, this week we do it at the top of the show, condolences to the family of Austin Kala Brown. May his soul rest in peace. And to the family of Mr. Brown, to the family of Mr. Swanston, I would want them to know that the prayers of the multitude here will comfort them in their time of bereavement and in their time of difficulty. Death is never easy. When it comes, as we know it will come, it is never ever on time. It is always something that we're not prepared for, notwithstanding we expect it. It is one of the curiosities of the human condition that we are never prepared. And so to all who might be mourning, to those I might have missed, I would want to extend my condolences. Let me segue from condolences to a note of celebration. Today, there is someone who's celebrating a birthday, and that someone is none other than Miss Tasha Weeks, Tasha Hendricks, and Tasha Plentythings. I call her Tasha, the Queen of Barnsgot. She's celebrating in New York, but Tasha being Tasha, we know she's being celebrated all across the world. And Tasha, I'm told, is 45 years young today. And Tasha, if you're listening, I want to wish you a very happy birthday. Tasha's been a friend of mine for a very long time, and she is somebody who is a delightful individual, somebody who it is really great to know. And I know that she's celebrating. I want to wish her all the very best. So Tasha, if you're listening, happy birthday. God bless you and keep you, and may you have another 45 years and another 45 on top of that, and thereafter we can discuss the rest. But I wish you certainly the very, very best of birthdays and God's continued blessings upon you, upon your life. And I'm sure that you're out celebrating with your family and friends. Celebrate, be safe, we love you, and happy birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, I would hope tonight not to take up too much time on my usual soliloquy, but rather to afford the audience an opportunity to call in. I recognize over the past few weeks that I have spent quite a bit of time talking at the top of the show, and that has limited, compressed, if you will, quite considerably the amount of time we have available for individuals who may want to call in. So tonight I'll try to be better and to do better, and not to be as loquacious as I have been in the past. Let me start by correcting the record. Last week's show we had a discussion, and my shows are unscripted, so let me say that at the outset. We don't come here with pad and paper, we come here just to talk. And I did make mention of the PAP program as an example of social programs, and I warned against our people becoming overly dependent on state assistance, government assistance, and I warned our government that we had to be careful to ensure that programs were directed to where they were most needed, as opposed to developing a culture where everybody starts to feel that the government has an obligation to give everybody something. And so that was the conversation, and part of that conversation we mentioned the PAP program, the Poverty Alleviation Program. Today somebody advised me that perhaps I had misspoken, let me use that language, and said that the PAP program started during COVID. I think if that is what I said, as I said, the show is unscripted, and I would like to apologize, because my understanding is that the first PAP checks were actually paid sometime in December of 2018. So that was roughly a year and 2 months or so before COVID hit. So I want to apologize for that. What I meant to say, so let me now be more accurate, is that the PAP program was extended during COVID as a response to COVID. So the PAP program predates COVID by about a year and 2 months, but it was extended during COVID. And the information that I have says that whereas the original PAP program was to give $500 per month to households that were earning under $3,000 per month, when the entire household income was considered, during COVID, it was individualized, so that if individuals were earning less than $3,000, then some of them were able to go onto that program. So the program was tweaked during the COVID pandemic as a response to the pandemic. And as a result of that, quite a large number of persons went onto the PAP program during the COVID pandemic who were not on the program before, because perhaps they would not have qualified before. So the program was expanded, and that is perhaps more accurate. And so because I always believe in giving accurate information to the public and to engage in a conversation that is based on facts. And so the program was expanded during COVID. It did not start during COVID. And so I would want to apologize for that to the listening public, and thank those who are fact-checking and are calling to say, you misspoke, you said something that wasn't entirely accurate. So I want to correct that, and thank that person today who pointed it out to me so that I could do so at the top of the show. This, I think, is what legitimate debate and conversation is about, the ability to engage. But when, of course, that information is conveyed wrongly, or conveyed in a way that is or can be misconstrued, or simply incorrect information, then we owe an obligation to correct the record. And so I've done that this evening to say that what I meant to point out is the expansion of that program during COVID as a response to COVID. And the point that I sought to make was still is a valid point in my view, that we have to guard against our people becoming dependent on such programs. We have to say to our people that in times of difficulty, the government clearly is there and has to shoulder that responsibility, as governments everywhere, to provide for its people. But we have not to start to talk about and debate how many social programs we have, or how many thousands of people are getting something for free, quote unquote, from the government. But rather we have to now turn our attention to jobs, creating jobs and seeking to move the process forward of building our economy. I am not known of any economy anywhere in the world that has been built on social programs. What I mean by that is to say that I'm not aware of any economy anywhere in the world that is built on government giving away money to the populace. Economies are built on ingenuity, economies are built on entrepreneurship, economies are built on the private sector stepping up. And so the role of the government is to create that environment and allow our people to go out and do what our people have always done, to work hard. To work hard. And that is the point that I think needs to be emphasized by all of us who at this point in time hold public office, by all of us who have a rostrum or pulpit of some kind. We must preach it in the highways and the byways that there is no substitute for hard work, that we have a responsibility to pass on to our children and our grandchildren and those in the community that look up to us, that hard work is the only proven pathway to success. And that is what we have to emphasize, because too many people seem to be of a view that success comes overnight. I have people who are calling me. They say to me, I'm 22 years old, I have 2 children, I need a house. And I say, but can you afford a house at 22? Now, of course, if it is possible, then absolutely. But the sense is that it is the government's responsibility to give me a house. Now, in most societies, a house is the most significant investment that most of us will ever make. And people are taught to work and to save, to pinch their pennies, and to do what is necessary, so that most people by their late 20s, maybe early 30s, are talking about building something, or buying something. You have some people now fresh out of school, and their first order of business is to tell you they want a house. And when you ask the question, well, how is it going to be paid for? Let's talk about that. That didn't come into the equation. Because again, the governments and successive governments have given people the impression that it is our job to give you these things. It's our job to give them to you. And so I am continuing to say to our people that the role of the government is to help. Who are we to help? The indigent. The Bible refers to the poor. People who are suffering from some kind of disability and who need assistance. People who cannot work because they're not able-bodied. People who have some type of mental disability perhaps. Individuals in our community who need help, our elderly, our shut-ins, our sick, our destitute. Those are the people I think that the safety nets should be geared for. It shouldn't be geared for able-bodied men and women who are simply sitting around and saying, listen, I need to collect a check every month or every week as the case may be. I don't want to work. I have no intentions of working. I just need the money. And I have lamented time and time again here that a lot of our people come to you and they say to you they're looking for something to do. But what they really mean is they're looking for some money each week or each month because they're not actually prepared to do any work for that money. And we have to guard against that. And if that makes me unpopular, then that's okay. But we who are in public life, and we who have a microphone, we who have a megaphone, we who are able to speak to the public, whether it is in church or in the community groups, whether it is here from the political platform, in the parliament, wherever it may be, I think we have an obligation to preach to our people that the old adages that we were taught of hard work, honesty, eating by the sweat of your brow, going out there, doing what you need to do, saving your money. Nowadays you tell people about saving and they look at you like you're crazy. One person said to me, save and the cost of things so high. And I said, yes, we have some difficulty to be sure, because the cost of living has gone up. But I reflect, and I know when you say these things, people say, well, today is not yesterday, and I appreciate that. But core principles in which societies have been constructed have not changed. Have not changed. Maybe things today are faster with technology and everybody is on WhatsApp and Instagram and all of that, but the fundamental core building blocks of families, communities, societies have not changed. And so I reflect on yesteryear because there are lessons to be learned. When our people had nothing, jobs, we were able to eke out an existence from what we grew, from the fishermen who went out to fish, what we grew on our farms in our backyard. That is what we survived on here on the island of Nevis. Very few had jobs to say they get up every morning and they go someplace to work, and at the end of the week they get a paycheck. Paychecks were few and far between. And still people were able to save. People were able to respond to that wisdom which said, put something, little something away for a rainy day. I remember my great aunt Elise, and when I was good and did good in school, she used to reach down into her bosom and take out a little purse and give me a little something, whatever it was, 25 cents, whatever it was. The truth is that whether it was under the bed, in the Bible sometimes, where they took something, to lose local language, our people had that in us. Save. Most of us, even as young children, your family opened some little thing for you. It may not have been much, but it was a culture. Now, people say they're living from paycheck to paycheck. And whilst, yes, I understand that some people do struggle, a lot of our people are trying to live a lifestyle that is not supported by their income. And you may argue and say, well, we deserve nice things too, and I agree. Everybody deserves nice things. But you must have a plan in your life. And if you want nice things, you must understand that there is a pathway, a proven pathway to access those nice things. You must go to school. That is important. You must learn your lesson, which requires time and application. That is important. You must seize opportunities as they arise. We have so many scholarships here that are offered that bang in dark because nobody would apply for them. And people who cannot afford to go away because their parents don't have it to get an education, I say to them, there are free scholarships that you can go someplace and get a degree for free. And they tell you that too far, me nah go there. That's the response. Me nah go there, me want go America, me want go Canada, me want go UVI. Well, if you have Canadian money and American money and UVI money, that is alright. But if you don't have that, what do? You sit on the sidelines and complain? Or you grab what's available and make the best of it and go off into the world and learn and get your degree and come back to make a contribution and to build yourself. There's no shortcut. If academia isn't your thing, then learn a trade. Go out there. Learn construction, learn carpentry, learn joinery, learn masonry. Learn how to fix cars, wire a house, do plumbing, learn a trade. You can't just decide every morning to get up and sit back. And then you look at somebody who's going out there and doing what they're supposed to do and you're vexed with them. There is a pathway and there are no shortcuts. Yes, some of us in life might be lucky when we win the lotto, but those will be few and far between. So there are no shortcuts. Look at people. Look at the lives they have led. And you will see a certain consistency in people who are now successful. Some people say, well, I'm only a civil servant. I don't make a lot of money. I have seen civil servants who have built a life, investing, have a beautiful home, have their car, have been able to send their children through school because they followed a particular pathway. We must learn to work hard. We must learn to live within our means. We must learn to delay some pleasures and some purchases until we're in a position to have them. Too many of us, because little Johnny's mother put on Air Jordan on little Johnny's feet to go to preschool, we say that little Tommy must have Air Jordans too. Well, if you don't have Air Jordan money, don't worry about that. Focus on what's important. These are some of the things. We have people out there who paying for Netflix, paying for WhatsApp, paying for their phone to have all the apps and the access, paying for nails, paying for hair, paying for lashes, but then I pay electricity and then I paying water. How that could make sense? How could that make sense? What is more important, the latest weave or your water in your house, the electricity in your house? I know people don't like to hear these things, but these things have to be said, because a lot of our people are putting themselves in difficulty, and having put themselves in difficulty, they then say, oh, things hard and things bad, and nothing now go on for me and nobody now do nothing for me. But you look at some of the things, and I'm not suggesting that if you want weave and nails and lashes, you want eyebrow, you want tattoo, you want all of the things that our people are spending their money on. You want to go to music fest, you want VIP. It used to be VIP, now they put on about 10 V's in front of that now. Every VIP you put on costs an extra $100. So you want all of those things. That is right, is okay. To have the ambition is okay. But you must also have a plan. You must also have a plan. How do you work towards the things that you want? And how do you delay some of these expenditure? Because you have to focus on critical things in your life. You can't tell me that you're not going to pay for your water for your house, so that get turned off, or your electricity, so that get turned off. But every two can knock you in the party. I was told by a young person the other day how much this weave thing costs. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. Hundreds of dollars. And as I said, if you can't afford it, then more power to you. But if you can't, wouldn't it be better to take those same hundreds of dollars and you put it away in a little account, and you start to have a little target, and you say, by the end of the year I want this to have $3,000, and then by next year I want to have, and then now you say to land and house, you say to something else, listen, you go to the bank, I have a down payment. I have saved for the past 5 years, 6 years, and I now can make the down payment to get a mortgage to build a little home for my family. That's how life is constructed. And too many people want to take shortcuts, and too many people are engaged in activities that ultimately are unhelpful, because see what happens. See what happens. When it is that your appetite for certain things exceeds your income, and many do not want to go and do the extra job or whatever to support the appetite, people start to do other things. So the attractiveness now of crime, because you say you want more money, the attractiveness of fellows who come and try to prey on young people, especially young women, that becomes attractive because he could give you some money. And all of a sudden you have this difficulty that develops in the society, which could be avoided if we were having honest conversations with our people and saying to our people, listen, the pathway to success in life is a well-worn pathway. Look at the people here in Nevis. Look at Van Samry of blessed memory. Look at Sir Simeon Daniel of blessed memory. Look at Joseph Parry. Look at Mr. Uriel Swanson, whom I just mentioned. Look at whoever you could think about. Arthur Evelyn of blessed memory. Theodore Hobson. Look around. None of them achieved anything. Strani, Arnaldo Chiverton, look at them. Marcus Hodge. I hope nobody upset with me for calling their name, but I'm calling out people who have done well, who have lived certain lives and who have succeeded in their fields of endeavor. Myrna Walwyn. Look around the island and you see people who have done things. Look at public servants who are there. Hope I don't get fired tomorrow, but look at our Deputy Governor General, Vera Liebert, Her Honor, and her husband, Elmo Liebert. I have known them to work all of their lives, go to church, raise their family, buy a little car, build a little house, and that is how life progresses. You buy a better car as you get older, you whatever. That is how life progresses. Some people want to parachute, bam, from the front, from the top. House, car, land, bank account, business, everything at once. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is not how life works. So I just want to make that appeal. I don't want people to get upset with me, because it is customary for politicians to tell people what they want to hear. That's customary. Sometimes you approach, and I heard the story of one mother who approached somebody and asked for assistance. And what was the assistance for? She wants to have a party at school for her child. Party at school? What is that about? Well, all the other children are doing it. Where they have pizza and cupcakes and whatever, and everybody at the class, in the class, has a party. And the question was asked, well, do you have the money to do this? No. So they're going around trying to get donations for this. No. Back in the day, so to speak, you know what would have happened? That mother would have gone and baked a little cake. Or if they had the resources to buy a little cake, and would have gathered the other 2 or 3 children around, and they sing happy birthday, they have a little punch, and they showered that birthday celebrant not with gifts, not with material things, but with love, with affection, with time. I tell people that I have never had a birthday celebration growing up. In fact, none of my siblings did. My mother was Jehovah's Witness, and so we didn't engage in that kind of thing. But I never looked across and saw anybody celebrating and was jealous or was concerned about that. No, I was on a particular pathway. I had my foot set on a particular pathway. And when we look at the people, and sometimes I reflect on those that I went to high school with, and I look around the world, they are in positions all across the globe and doing well for themselves. Why? Because they follow the pathway. They recognize that things did not happen overnight. That you had to work, you had to burn the midnight oil. I wonder sometimes if our people today remember there was something called the midnight oil. Burn it. Life is not easy, but there's a blueprint that others have followed, which I think it will do us well to consider. There used to be a saying when I was a boy, don't hang your hat where you can't reach it. It means different things, but one of the things it means is, listen, there are different kinds of car, you know, different brands, some more expensive than others. And that is the truth. If you can't afford the car, leave the car for now. Maybe you can afford a motorcycle, gets you around. If you can't afford a motorcycle, leave that for now. Maybe you can afford a bicycle that gets you around. If you can't afford that, then leave that alone and you walk. That gets you around. This is not being harsh. This is being practical. That is what life is about. And as you graduate from your bicycle to the motorcycle to the car, you do that over time as you build yourself. You build your family. Some people, for example, have 3, 4 kids. Kids are small. The burden is on that single mother. But children are so small, you know, they grow up with the grace of God. So when you had that burden of 3, 4 children, 1 6, 1 4, 1 2, and you're struggling, but you instill in them the necessary values of hard work, go to school, learn. Guess what happened? That 6, that 4, that 2 eventually become 22, 20, 18. And what was 1 income in your household is now 4. Because all 3 of them find something to do. You see how your financial situation can then start to turn around? Because your family income has moved from that single mother to now 4 incomes coming into the household. That's important. I see a situation and I know tomorrow people are going to talk, but that is okay. When man and woman together here on this island and in this country, they're not married. They choose not to get married. That is their choice. But they're together. Everybody knows them together. And they're together for what we call donkey's years. But they don't build anything together. They don't have a home together. They don't buy land together. Now the reason I'm emphasizing the word together is because when you come together, you have more money. When you pool those resources to do certain things. But you hear man and woman in long term. This is my man, this is my woman for 20 years. And them not own nothing together. Because the woman will be the first to tell you, I'm not going to ring on my finger, you know. And the man will be the first to tell you, no woman going to get what me work for. But you all are together. Well, if you are together and you have that commitment to be together, then pool your resources. If he is going out there in a job and making $4,000 a month, and she's out there in a job making $4,000 a month, he approaches the bank separately to her, chances are a lot less that you can be successful. But if you said we're going to pool these resources together, and it's now $8,000, the bank now looks at you differently. Because the bank then says, well, yes, you can afford a mortgage, you can afford whatever investment you're seeking to make. And it goes beyond man-woman relationship. I was in the United States Virgin Islands for the funeral of my beloved aunt. And I had the occasion to speak to the governor. And Governor Bryan said something to me which I think was so profound. He was talking about people in the Virgin Islands building together, investing together, Virgin Islanders, and just change the island, because the mentality is what I'm seeking to speak to. Nevisians, Kititians, Antiguans, it doesn't matter. The mentality. And he said that he had observed in the Virgin Islands this phenomenon. He said a Virgin Islander, one man has a dock, a pier. He owns that dock. Another man has a boat. Rather than the two of them deciding to work together. And I say, well, I have the pier, you have the boat, let us put our resources together and build a business. He said, no. The man who has the boat fighting to get a pier, and the man who has the pier fighting to buy boats. And it struck me how profound that was. Here in Nevis we have the saying about partnership is leaky ship. All of us have heard it. It prevents us from leveraging our resources to maximize the benefit. A lot of us want to be 100% owner of a little stall on the side of the road, when we could be a 10% owner of a big supermarket. I want our people to reflect on these things. That the creation of wealth anywhere in the world has been based on people leveraging, coming together. That's how major companies are made. You hear about the stock exchange and all that. They sell shares to the public. It is the people who buy and put their money in that allows these companies to be so great. Here we have a problem because Tom doesn't trust Dick, Dick doesn't trust Mary, and we have a certain individualistic approach to life, so that we decide we're going to go it alone. And I reminded of that old proverb that says it's African, that if you go alone you may go fast, but if you go together you go farther. So it's important for us to start to change that mindset and that thinking. For young people with good ideas to be able to come and approach people who have some resources and say, listen, let's get together. Let's make some things happen. For the business community here to say, instead of each person trying to outdo the other, are there ways that we can collaborate and cooperate and make something great? here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. You think I feel good that all the hotels in Nevis are foreign owned? You think I feel good about that? For all the hotels. The only exception that we could perhaps point to is Hamilton, and that is owned through the Citizenship by Investment program. So as I understand it, different investors from all across the world would own units there. But can we point to a hotel property on Nevis where tourism is our #1 industry that we can say that is owned by us? And when we look back, you had West Haven owned local, Pinnis Beach Hotel owned local. Those were people who embodied some of the things that I'm here talking about tonight. Hard work, the ability to see and to execute on their vision. And so I want our people to reflect on these things. That what I say may not be popular, but there may be some wisdom in it. And that this constant debate about which government is giving away more is a false debate. It is an unhelpful approach to development. What we need to talk about is how we grow the economy, how we create jobs, how we incentivize our people to start their own businesses. When I say incentivize them and business, I mean business and incentivize. I don't mean a situation where people say they have a business but don't want to pay social security, don't want to pay any taxes, don't want to pay for electricity, don't want to pay for water, and then say, oh, you're not doing enough for small business. No. Our people must be encouraged. If you want to sell barbecue chicken, then you must make sure that there's something unique and attractive about your barbecue chicken, and not only about the chicken but the service that comes with that chicken. I must feel so good that I keep coming back. That chicken must be finger licking good like KFC. We have to have that in our minds. You can't say you see a grill man in town grilling corn and he don't got a big line there, he got a big crowd, he gonna go and grill corn too. All you're doing is taking some people away from him because the market is small. But you set up on the other corner grilling your corn, and then the two of you shut down. Or you don't make it, and then you start to cuss the government and say the government isn't doing enough for small businesses. What about if you decided to grill something else? What about that? Or if you decide you're going to grill corn too, what if you say, well, I'm going to put some garlic something on my corn? And when you buy a corn, you get something. Or you buy 3 corn, you get 1 free. Something. We have to reflect on these things. Some people here, for example, they say to you, you must not allow investors to come in because they're going to bring competition. So if a man wants to open a bar or a restaurant, the government is chastised, don't allow them because they're going to get a local bar or restaurant competition. And my question always is, why do you say that? Why? Because inherent in that is the idea that our people cannot compete successfully. And I reject that idea. Because I believe our people are as good as any and better than most. So you must therefore be able to say, whoever may come, let them come. I am local, I know the market, and I will compete and win. Because if it is they feel they can beat me on service, no, it can't happen. If I got to go back to learn how to do some new technique, I will do that. Because I will compete and compete successfully. Not to call the government and tell the government, oh, you shouldn't allow nobody to come, and oh, you shouldn't do this, and oh, you shouldn't do that. No, it is the ability for you to be on your pathway and to stick to it. Sometimes you need to put on blinders because there will be distractions. There will be bumps in the road. But you have to have that plan. I spoke to a young woman the other day. The woman tell me that she had a plan. By 25, she wanted a degree. By 35, I think she told me she wanted a home. And she said she worked towards her plan. Now, I'm not going to say that plans don't get derailed. This is life, and life is unpredictable. But too many of us are going through life just like a piece of flotsam on the ocean, going wherever the waves and the current takes us. And I'm saying that we need to reassess that. And who better to lead that conversation than the political leaders in the country? We said to our people, get up every morning, get out your house, and go and do what you need to do. Instead of the first thing in the morning being a spliff in your mouth and a Guinness, which costs money, reflect on what you're going to do at work today. How you're going to improve yourself and get that promotion. How you're going to start your own little business. If you have started it, how you're going to improve the service, the quality of what you're doing. How you're going to introduce new products. These are the things I think that you should reflect on. Not how much weed you can smoke, how much Guinness you can drink, how much gal you have, how much picnic you have. Those are not the things that ultimately will build you. And if my short time on this political journey is anything, I want people to say of me that I called it the way I saw it, and that I was honest and sincere, and that I said to our people that there is no substitute for hard work, for dedication, for honesty and integrity, and doing things the right way. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I said I wouldn't be long, and I've been long already. But before I open the lines, I want to advise that those who use the water taxi facility at Wally are being asked not to park in the vicinity of the facility tomorrow. Not to park there. If you do, you will be towed. The reason for that is that the roadworks have come to a critical juncture there, and I believe that they'll be trying to do some paving to get out of that area, and so they need that area to be clear tomorrow. So I'm appealing to motorists, I'm appealing to those who are traveling, that you do not leave your vehicle parked up there, because if you do, they'll have no choice but to tow your vehicle, and naturally the cost of that will be on you. So tomorrow is all about drop off and go, or perhaps you can park, if you can, wherever else, but you cannot park in the vicinity of the water taxi pier tomorrow. So I'm hopeful that those who have heard the message will adhere to it, and that those who have heard it will tell others that tomorrow there's no parking in the vicinity of the water taxi pier at Wally, because the road works have come to a critical juncture there, and I believe some paving ought to be done, and so if you park there you will be towed. So please avoid parking there tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 10 to the hour. We're going to open the lines and allow some phone calls at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Those are the calls to call. Those are the numbers, I'm sorry, to call if you want to be a part of the show this evening. And I don't think I did too badly. Last week I went to nearly an hour and a half with this so-called soliloquy. So this time around, I think we've done it in 50 minutes, and so we open the lines now. Let's go to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Dr. Sheriff. How are you tonight?
Good evening, my dear. It is always good to hear your voice.
Ecclesiastic 12, verse 13 and 14. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandment, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment, with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Sympathies going out to all who lose their loved one. Mark, you have a wonderful night. You always have something special to say. Night again.
Night, my dear, and thank you for those scriptures. Beautiful as always. Scriptures of your choice. And you've been with me on this journey on this show now for all this decade and a half, and I'm grateful to you and to all those who have made this show their home on a Wednesday. It's still, after all this time, one of the more popular shows in the Federation, still one of the larger platforms, still one of the most listened to, and so I appreciate you. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
I have a concern.
Yes.
And I've been talking about it all the time. If you're driving from the Gingerland area, Cherry Garden area, wherever you're driving, and you reach the roundabout, even before you reach the roundabout, you hear the ambulance is coming from the hospital. You could hear it because your hand is very high. And what I want the drivers to do, when you hear the ambulance, pull over. If you look out there, Mr. Brantley, I just look through the restaurant window, and you will find the ambulance have to go all the way around. The ambulance doesn't really have to go all the way around. When you see the ambulance coming from the hospital area, wherever you're coming, wherever you are, just stop, please. Because the person that they're going for might be your mother, your sister, your sibling, or somebody for you. And I'm tired of talking about it, that they're just pushing through. They hear the ambulance, they start to speed up, so then the ambulance number two. It should not happen. I even tell the police at traffic, sometimes I must come to the roundabout. And I don't like it, Mr. Amjan, and I'm pleading to the general public, please, when you hear the ambulance, pull over. Have a good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Thank you very much, and you make a very valid point, and I agree with you. The ambulance is clearly on a mission to save lives. That is why they're called out. And I would appeal to our people, as you have appealed to our people, to do the right thing. A lot of times, caller, we know what the right thing is, but we choose not to do it. And this society has become a society where oftentimes there are no consequences. And wherever there's a society where people can do things and there are no consequences after a while, those breaches become the norm. And so I would join you in encouraging our people to do what they know is the right thing. If the ambulance is coming and you hear that siren, pull over. That's standard the world over. It's no different here. So if you have observed that, caller, I would join you in urging motorists to be careful and sensible and not to engage in that activity. Ladies and gentlemen, this is On the Mark. We're taking your calls. 869-469-1616. 869-469-1700. Those are the calls to call. Those are the numbers to call. Why do I keep saying calls to call? Those are the numbers to call if you want to be a part of the show this evening. Now, while we wait for the phones to ring, now the phones aren't ringing, people aren't calling. So I'm now feeling that maybe I need to reconsider and have a 2-hour soliloquy next week, because I am saying I'm being overly loquacious, but then at the end of the day, people aren't calling. So we need to make up our minds, because somebody said to me last week, you're chatting too long, man, you need to open the lines. But now I open the lines, nobody's calling. So let me give you the numbers again. 869-469-1616 or 869-469-1700. I mentioned the works at Wally. So let me go back there, because of course that is a project that we're very proud of. The Honorable Alexis Jeffers, the Action Minister, he led that project during his time as a member of the NIA. I'll go to the phones and then I'll come back. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening. I would like to send sympathy greetings to Rosina McCoy and the family of Rosina passing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And again, 2 weeks in a row now, I have had to admit my error, because I should have at the top of the show also extended condolences to the McCoy family. I was actually at the hospital with them in the morning, and their mom passed that evening. Rosina was somebody who everybody knew and everybody loved. And so to all of their children, my brothers Tash and Troy in particular, Crystal, but the entire family, I would want to extend my deepest condolences on the passing of their mom, their grandmother, pillar of the community there. And the truth is that it happened so suddenly that I think all of us were in shock. And so I apologize to the family for not saying so at the top of the show, and I now join with you in extending condolences to the family of Rosina McCoy, who passed away just a few days ago. And I'm hopeful that the prayers of all of us will comfort them. So if you're listening, family members, please accept my condolences from all of us here at Von Radio and all of us here on The Mark. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on The Mark.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
How are you?
I am well, thank you.
I would like to say happy birthday in advance to my sister, Sandra Roberts. We are in New Road Housing, and she got birthday greetings coming from her sister, Sandra Prentice. I want her to have a blast tomorrow on her birthday.
Well, that is really wonderful. Sandra and Sandra.
Yeah.
All right. I know the two of you are close.
Yeah.
So I want to join you in extending birthday greetings as well to Sandra.
Thanks.
All right. Good. Thank you very much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, it is just about 4 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock. We're taking your calls. But while we wait for the phones to ring, let me just talk a bit about that water taxi facility, because we're now doing the reception area. That is moving along very nicely. And we have purchased some almost 9.19 acres, I think it is, but just over 9 acres of land on the other side of the water taxi facility. And we have just finalized the plans for the parking lot there, and I anticipate that that will be done shortly. We have said to the Minister Brand, that this is an urgent requirement, and so the hope would be that in very short order we will have the entire facility there built out as it was, of course, intended to be done in phases based on the resources that we had available. But now that we have decided to embark on the finalization of that, we all understand that the water taxi has become far more popular than we had anticipated, and I'll say that candidly. We thought that because it was more expensive and because there was a tax, if you will, for the use of the facility, that the facility in Charlestown, the regular ferry, would have continued to be the more popular. Truth is that while more people perhaps move on the regular ferry day to day, that the numbers over at the water taxi pier are also considerable. Thousands of people are using that facility on a daily basis. We have seen businesses grow up. I think there are now 6 water taxi operators. We have seen, of course, the infrastructure trying to respond to that, and as the government, we are stepping in, we are stepping up, and we are going to put in place some parking. Now there's a debate and a discussion, and frankly I would welcome your feedback on that. That parking should be paid parking. That is, that individuals should be required to pay something to put their cars and leave their cars in that parking lot. We are seeing people now who travel and go away for a weekend, for example, and they leave their cars there. They go to St. Kitts overnight, they leave their cars there, as the case may be. So we are contemplating that parking should be paid parking, and I would encourage your feedback on that and how you feel about that. But certainly we will have to spend some money to ensure that we have a facility that is safe and secure for persons to leave their vehicles and to remove those vehicles off the main road where they're currently being parked. As I say that, reminder again for those who have joined the show late, that tomorrow there is no parking in the area of the water taxi pier, because the road works have come to that critical juncture where I think they're going to be paving in that area. If you park there, you will be towed. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Okay, we've lost that caller. Caller, please call back in. 469-1616, 469-1700. Those are the numbers to call if you want to be a part of the show. So, I was reminding the public there's no parking there tomorrow. If you park there, you will be towed. So please just drop off and go, because tomorrow they're going to be paving. Sorry, paving has been working very quickly, so I anticipate that they'll be out there in that area in no time. In fact, the Minister Brand would have reported today that we expect that whole roadway should be finished by Easter. That is the expectation. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening.
Good evening to you. Good evening to you.
Premier Brantley.
Yes, good evening.
And I want to commend you for the talk you just gave. It goes further than giving people false promises that they cannot fulfill. You know, sometimes when I speak, I say, oh, me send it to all the poor people. You don't like, how do you mean you don't like poor people? Having been through the experience, and now we're in a better place, we are good examples of what you say. You know, I mean, I see some parents that can't even afford to buy bread. And yet when school opening, they're buying the most expensive shoes. Some of the children doing no work in school. You know, I've had to confront people. They might think you're getting into the business. So I say, well, what class is the child in? He don't want to work, you know. So I said, why are you buying those shoes for? You understand? I've been in a situation where my children, Mommy, I want to say, well, hello, I didn't send you to school for that. Oh, you're cheap, you mean? Yes. When they become adults, they learn. And so I hope the people who are listening, listen to words of wisdom. It's wisdom, you know. They would go a long way, much further than where they are today. Because all of the begging and the demanding. But see, there's something called pride. Pride in knowing that you did something to accomplish what you achieved. And so I do appreciate whenever I hear you making these talks, you know. And our people take it with grace and do what he says. Because in the long run, you know, you are the one who will benefit on your children. You pass on good values to your children. You pass on good values when they see you practicing them. And so I want to commend you again. Good night to all of my relatives in Nevis, our bad village. All about the pain and the do and the challenge. And they over in Rollins village, all my female family who I don't know. God bless Nevis. And Godwin Brown down in Sheriff village.
So let me ask you.
To you and your children.
Let me ask you something, caller, before you go.
Ask me.
Why do you think that our people have moved away? Why do you think? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Why do you think that our people have moved away from those principles? Our people have moved away from those principles that would have guided us for centuries.
You see, like about, let me tell you something.
Yes.
We have a way of trying to compensate our children what we didn't have. You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, when I was small, I didn't have it. So the child doing nothing, so they take it for granted. I mean, I had what is called a big job, and I tell my children, no, I am not going to buy no shoes for no child that costs more than what I'm wearing to work.
Mm-hmm.
You set an example, they think you're harsh, but they learn to appreciate it. But our children, most of our parents, we're looking for affirmation from our children. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Simple enough. Why give a child a phone that costs more than the house rent? When I used to work in the planning unit, me saying you don't want a phone like that. I said, let me tell you something. And your child does say, no. Those phones you see people have, they are using them as an instrument in their work. What job do you have that you think you need a BlackBerry? What job? And why do you think you need this kind of clothes? I said, go down to Rams, go by Ford Bricks, and take a look at the people who own and manage the stores. But if everything they see that somebody got the envious, and then you know you want to stay in the friendship, then they want my child look so. I mean, I want my child, you know what I mean?
So you think some of it is follow fashion?
It's envy. You satisfying the children envy. Everybody have, you must have.
And so what happens, caller? If
envy, you know?
What happens, caller, if you can't afford?
You let the child know you can't afford it. You tell the child up front.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to tell my children, and sometimes I could afford it, but you're not going to have it. If you can't afford it, darling, I would really like to give it to you, you know? But right now, I can't do it. But some of us don't want to say no.
Okay.
So the children say, oh, mommy, and you mean it? Yes, I mean. I mean, that is how I would answer it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so and some mother does give things. I said, darling, if you're not satisfied over here, go over there. Go over there, you see what they're eating. So we have got to be more firm with our children.
Yes.
Because the envying from small, that is why they rob, you know. They don't have it, the mother don't have it, and they mean they must have it. You know, so for our people and for politicians, stop over promising because it don't make no sense. You are over promising what you know the country cannot afford, cannot give. And when they come to ask for it, and next story. So I hope you don't engage in that, you know. Don't engage in over promising. What Nevis can't afford, it can't afford it. You can't afford it now, it will afford it later. Be honest with the people. Oh, I want a house. You hear what Jeffrey say? Honorable Jeffrey? You give them the house and one woman say, oh, he give me the house and he know I can't pay for it. Then you yourself encouraging it. You know, so our people, you have got to be straight with them. They may not like it now, just like how some children don't like it now. My daughter, she listens, she might hear me. She has 2 degrees, a master's and a thing. And she said, Mommy, you know, something I come and like you know. When, she lives in Barbados. When I go to buy, I'm looking for the sale rack here. All right. She could afford it. But we teach our children. We teach them. Some of you can sew. Make the children clothes. Oh, well, our mother don't make. What have that got to do with you? You understand what I'm saying?
I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, look, I made my children uniforms all the way up to sixth form. Shirt and skirt, jumper. Oh, Mommy, I'm so and some other does buy yourself. I will not be buying because I can make them. The children think you're hard, but as they get older and they get their own children, they'll remember what you taught them, but if you teach them nothing, then you end up in courts, house for TDC, higher purchasing, things to give them so they can compete with other people's children. What is that?
Well, you seem to put, I'm sorry if I'm keeping you overly long, but you seem to put a lot of emphasis on the home. Do you think that is where it starts?
The phone?
The home.
The home, of course, it starts there. If you ain't got like some children. I never gave my children or my grandchildren money to buy lunch yet. I don't give the child $20 every day. I said, darling, you know that's $100. Oh, I want my child to, if you don't want to eat the school meals, I should tell myself, I pay taxes for that, right? I pay taxes for that. So if you don't want to eat it, you come home and you eat what is there. Simple. School meals given away free. I mean good quality. I don't know about names, but I say kids. And the children can't afford to, but I don't need school meals. And the parents, I want my children need school meals. What they giving them at home? What are they so teaching the children from an early age to have no discipline? And that is the problem, you know. If your children, even your own, if you own no, well, this is on my father's temper. Daddy, I want a Jaguar. You say, Jaguar, you want to go Africa and catch one? You understand what I'm saying? Not
Yes.
because you have it, you must dish it out. The children must understand that their disciplines and their ways saving. I used to bank in the Sunday school. Every Sunday, so when Christmas comes, they have the money, they could go to a shop. You could want always everybody got. If the money you save can't buy it, forget it. And I'm not going to let you go and beg no auntie and no uncle. They think you have, but they learn, you know. And the sooner, and these young ladies, you have the children them. You're setting them up for prostitution, you know. You're setting yourself up for prostitution and your young daughters, because they want everything, everybody in the school have. You give them a phone. Oh, well, that will be latest. I want a Samsung J5. I want a... I iPhone. One time one of my granddaughters said, Granny, for my birthday I want an iPhone. So darling, you're good. I have never bought an iPhone for myself. And the one I have, it was given to me by my sister-in-law. I said, you have a business? I said, iPhone are not toys, you know. iPad are not toys. They walk away feeling bad, but it's the thinking the next time they're not going to come back to you with a foolishness. And the quicker our parents begin to set an example, because they don't set none for themselves. They owe everybody, and they go down to the phone store. I know some of them, listen, we are like poor people. Some of them are cheaper phones there, no, could do WhatsApp. No, they want when they pull out the phone, and the friend pull out the phone, they have the latest one. What income is that phone bringing in? That is how I look at it, maybe because I'm an economist, statistician. What income? When I retired, I had a car, you know, Mazda 323. I said, you ain't buy a new car. I said, let's get it straight. Nothing wrong with my car, and if I was to buy a new car, it will have on a key or an hour. Any investment like that must bring in an income. How many of us think like that?
Okay. All right.
All right then.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you've given us a lot to think about. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, some interesting views. The comment there that some people's phone is more than their rent. I thought that was an interesting perspective from an elder in the community and somebody who obviously has called in to share perspective with us. I'm reminded to shift topics for a second, to remind our people that the water department here in Nevis has advised that the rate of recharge on our aquifers is lower than expected, and so we're asking people to conserve water. I'm urging our people to do the right thing and to conserve water. In fact, we will be trying to assist that process by having water turned off in some areas in the late evening, early morning hours, I think from maybe 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. or something of that nature. But the idea really is to give the aquifers an opportunity to recharge and refresh themselves. We're using far more water than necessary. People are watering their lawns, people are doing all kinds of things with water, so we're urging our people to conserve. If we say that water is a precious resource, which it is, then we conserve what is precious. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Hello?
Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Mark, I'm a foreigner. I come in since 81. And Mark, I tell you, I come with just me clothes in a bag. And I live in rent house for 10 years. And after 10 years, I tell myself, no, rent man take my money and that is not enough. Mark, I take my money and I start to put it and count it. Now today I got my own house, out of rent house. Me just come with my bag of clothes, Mark, I ain't got nothing more. But today I have my own house and my own land. Right? People must take pattern from foreigner. Foreigner come and make themselves and achieve. What happened to the local, the native from here? Do the same thing. Don't depend. Me depend, Mark. Just me clothes by my back, nothing more. Miss a foreigner, now me come and me got my own thing. My own house and land, me become a citizen. Tell me now.
So so over the years then, you would have worked towards it?
Mark,
you save your money?
Then the rent house, I say rent man, I give me money every month and me I got nothing, and me got me children. If today, tomorrow, me dead, them ain't got nothing. How they go reach back to Guyana? Me take up the 2 cents now I got left. And I start go wrong and buy a piece of land. I put on a phone pen and I go inside. And then I'm gonna buy every month. Peace.
Mm-hmm.
Get the plan and everything draw out. And me build me house out of me pocket. Out of me no bank. Because I tell myself when night come, me want to sleep. Me want to study that me hold the bank. Just like how me hold the landlord every month, he come in fee money, me able with it. I save and peace now today, look me stand up here. Now the native, let the take pattern to see how the foreigner come and exit.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can do the same thing. We are depending upon the government for this. The government for that. The government can't help me because me am foreigner. And if me can come and work out the maths, why you can't work out your maths too?
Thank you very much thank you for the call.
Thank you.
And we appreciate it. I think that you have said a lot that we should reflect on. The fact that you would have come, as you say, with nothing. You now have a home today. But also the way that you put it, because I think, you know, my father of blessed memory used to have a saying. He used to tell us, rent money is dead money. And it took me a long time to understand what he was saying. But he said, rent money is dead money. And if you only plan on paying rent, you're paying somebody else's mortgage for them. And you yourself know, at the end of the day, you have nothing. Sometimes when you reflect on the amount of rent you would have paid in 10, 15 years, you say, oh, if only I had perhaps invested that in a home of my own, I would nearly have paid off for it already. But it requires you to have that plan. You had a plan. So you came, you worked, and you built. You hear what I say? Every chance you get, you buy piece until you got to where you want to go. It didn't happen overnight. And that, I think, is a lesson that we all need to learn. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
Yes, good evening, sir. Mr. Brantley, why I call it, it's more of a clarification that I want to get clarified by you. I listened to a news item I think it was last Saturday, on one of the radio stations with you referring to the PAP. You mentioned the social programs, and you were saying that they wasn't intended to be there, permanently, which is true. People are supposed to be graduate. You would have some graduated and some would not. But what caught my attention is you said that you were part of government, and the PAP program, I think you said it was designed for the coronavirus. And then I heard when I'm playing, the item saying that it was created in the PAP program was created in 2018. Was that a mistake by you?
I've clarified that at the start of the show already in a call. I suspect you're tuning late.
Yes, I tuned in late.
Okay, yeah. I clarified that at the top of the show.
Yeah,
right?
because I was kind of confused, and it was brought to my attention by some of my friends.
So the PAP program, as I explained, was in fact introduced. The first payments were December of 2018.
Yes, right. That's right. Yeah.
But what happened during COVID is the program was expanded. And so I would have misspoken when I spoke, and so I clarified that at the top of the show this evening, because I would like to be very clear in what I say. And a few people did bring it to my attention that what I had said was that the program started during COVID. That is not what I meant to say. I meant to say that it was expanded during COVID, significantly expanded at that. But my fundamental point was that these programs are not designed to be lifelong programs so that people get on and they stay on for the rest of their lives.
Yes, I agree with you.
Right.
Yes,
so
I agree with you.
That was the issue, but that was clarified at the top of the show.
Yes,
so
and thank you for your clarification.
Right, and thank you for bringing it to my attention. I appreciate it very much.
Yes, all right. You have a blessed evening.
Okay, you do the same. 20 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock, we're taking your calls. 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good night, sir.
Good evening.
I just want to say to the lucky foreigner, she sounds like she might be an elder. in her voice to sound like that. She ain't had no lot of running around back then. So she was lucky to get a piece of land and build her house. But today, we have to go round and around the country. And up to when we reach back in town, we still have to go round and around the country again to get a piece of land. That's all I want to say.
Okay, well, caller, I'm sorry you didn't stay on the line because I don't know the round and back and where you're talking about. Lands are being sold here in Nevis every day. If you're non-national, it's a little bit more difficult than if you're local. But lands are being sold. The government is selling lands. The private people are selling lands. In St. Kitts, it may be a little different because most of the lands over there are owned by government. But certainly in Nevis, I know that lands are changing hands, you know, on and off. And people who want to buy land, there are a number of realtors here. Cabinet, we see them all the time because if it's non-nationals, then they need to apply for an alien land holding license. And up to today, in the cabinet, we dealt with a few that would have come through. So if you're having difficulties, I'm not sure why, because lands are available, lands are being sold. Some is more expensive than others, I agree. But if you, again, have your mindset on that, I think you can find land to buy, certainly on the island of Nevis. And I would imagine, I don't live there, but it is equally true on the island of St. Kitts. Let's go back to the phones. No? Ladies and gentlemen, please call in 869-469-1616. I like the conversation this evening. I think that people are listening. A lot of people have been messaging me. I've got some messages from persons who are saying that the parking area at the water taxi, that there should be paid parking and that there should be a long-term parking rate and a different rate for short-term parking. Bottom line is we have invested and will continue to invest to beautify the area over there and make sure that it is fit for purpose, because we never anticipated the volume that we are seeing. We really never anticipated. We thought that it would be mostly the visitors to the island who would use that facility, but more and more local people, business people, groups are using that water taxi facility now, and all that we can say is praise be to God. The other day I saw the Honorable Alexis Jeffers say he's going to pack a cooler with some drinks and he's going to go down there just to watch the boats moving and the people arriving. And I said to him, brother, go and enjoy it because it's your legacy. It was his vision, his execution, and we give him credit for it because we should give credit where credit is due. And he really has created something there that has transformed Nevis. And that's what we must try to do as politicians and leaders. We do projects and developments that are transformational. When that road that is done, that is being done now, it will transform that area of Nevis. When we're talking about taking down that area there as we're going over Hurricane Hill on the Island Main Road and making it safer to remove, of course, those blind spots, that's transformational. We're creating and building infrastructure that will make our island better. We're talking about an airport project that will be transformational, geothermal transformational. Last week I commented on the broiler industry, and the Honorable Eric Evelyn last week was having the meeting. So over 50 people attended that meeting, all of whom are interested in raising chicken for meat. And so, again, transformational. These are the things that we're working on this island. And that is what vision and government is about. Doing projects that transform lives and transform our island. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Good night, Honorable Brantley.
Yes, good evening to you.
I'd like to ask you this question about the cases that you all are doing for the voting issue.
Yes.
Because last night I was listening to a show where they say somebody appeal the case with the other guy. I'd like to say if it's true. With Brand case.
Yeah, I'm told that Miss J.D. Keynes has appealed the decision of the judge which struck out her petition, and that she's asking the Court of Appeal to intervene. So yes, Minister Brand was served with this appeal by Miss J.D. Keynes.
Okay, thank you. Calling from BGI anyhow.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thank you for that. I had it down on my list to mention, but I mean, it is such a foolish approach by young JD. JD, I think, and if she's listening, Miss Keynes, if you're listening, you're young, you possibly have a future in politics, I don't know. But just as I'm advising people tonight to have a pathway and walk on that pathway, it leads to success, this is not the way to success. You went to court against Mr. Brand, saying that there were some concerns about the election. And you got it wrong. The judge, in fact, took out his calendar and invited your lawyer to count with him, because the law says that you must file a petition within 21 days. You never did. Everybody who was in the court agreed that you didn't file within the time prescribed by law. And the law is pellucid. It is clear that if you do not file within the time prescribed by law, your petition is a nullity. You know what a nullity is? It means it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It's a nullity. So the judge had no choice but to strike it out. Your lawyers then stand up and say to the judge that he has the power to make things right. That's what your lawyer told the court, that they should make things right. The obvious question is, why did your lawyers get it wrong? Why did they get it wrong? The lawyer that was in court representing you, I believe she has 30 years or more at the bar. She was assisted by counsel from Antigua. So why did she get it wrong? Who was it? The lawyers or yourself who did not know how to count days? Because all you need to do is take up the calendar and count. So you file late, out of time, and the judge so found, and therefore the law is clear that your petition had to be struck out because it's a nullity. You can't breathe life into something that is stillborn. And that is what the court referred to it as, stillborn, dead on arrival. So what are we harassing the court again for now? There's a host of judicial opinion which says that these decisions, no appeal lies from these decisions because of the nature of these decisions. Again, that is settled law. So you and your lawyers went down the wrong path to start with. And now you're going to have to find thousands of dollars to pay legal costs. The numbers that I'm hearing are interesting, but I'm hearing that King's Counsel is saying that their costs might be in the order of 65,000 US dollars. So you're going to have to find some money to pay. And rather than stepping back, you decided you're going to double down and now file an appeal. Well, when you lose the appeal, what you think is going to happen? You're going to be asked to pay more money, more costs. I realize that my cousin Pat has not filed any appeal. Or if she has, she hasn't served it on me. And I am saying that Pat's wisdom has come back to her, because Pat understands. Boy, them done fool me off once and make me go in there, go trouble me cousin. Now me owe me cousin big money. Me not let them fool me twice. That, I believe, is what Pat said. Pat said, "Brownell me from me no chop it, you know. Me don't go in there, make a fool out of myself, talk about me go to court when me know me not got no case. And look what happened to me now. Me owe money. And worse, Mr. Brantley say he want the money. Me now go back in there." So Pat look like she has backed off. I say look like because who knows, she may serve me tomorrow. But young JD, now listen. Not listening. So I want to know who is advising Because if you're taking advice, and the advice that you had could not even tell you how to count days, well, I don't know now what the position is going to be. But the one thing I know, every additional step you take in the court and you lose costs more money. And sometimes the best advice to people is to go home, go sit down. Take it easy. If you are committed to being a politician, go out there to the people and continue doing the work, talking to people about your ideas, and hopefully coming back. Spencer Brand ran before and was not successful. He ran a second time, and at that point he was successful. That's my recollection. He didn't go to court and had any kind of wrangling. He went back into the community. And he put Elhansville Hector into retirement. That's what Spencer did. So just as some caller tonight said that there are you pattern your behavior based on what you have seen others do. Going to court on a bad case, the judge don't tell you go sit down. You come now to appeal. All you're doing is making matters worse for yourself. That is all that is happening. And I'm not sure why people want to go down that road. The islanders already moved on, you know. You don't hear NRP making noise now anymore. Because the wind in their sail, which was this Hail Mary about case, that wind has been knocked out. Because the judge made it clear, abundantly clear, that what they did in the court was a nullity. 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 It was stillborn. It was dead on arrival. And so, go back to the drawing board, and if you're interested, really interested in representing people, go out there, go look for people, go talk to them. This harassment, I mean, look at these objections that the NRP has filed. Hundreds of people have been objected to on the voters list. A couple called me from Bat Village, said they've lived in Bat Village for 10 years and their names have been objected to. A lady contacted me, said she has lived in St. John's here now for over a decade. Same address. In fact, she said the bailiff brought the letter, objection letter, to her at her home in St. John's, where they say she don't live. Just objecting to people to harass them because they hear that the people support CCM. And so some people now are saying, well, I got to go and take off time off my job to go there. This is foolishness. Why is the Nevis Reformation Party engaged in that? Now, if there are legitimate objections to be made, then make them. But it's wholesale, hundreds of people. In town, I'm told, is nearly 100 they objected to. The strategy that the NRP has had, you know, going back to 2011 election, is to take people's name off the list. Not try to appeal to people, but try to find out who is CCM and remove their names from the list. That has been their strategy. In 2011 they did so illegally, and that is what had Mr. Hensley Daniel declared null and void and sent him back to the polls, where he took a whipping in the follow-up election. That has been the reality. The NRP strategy politically has been to disenfranchise people. CCM did not object to anybody this year, you know. We did not. So some fella called me up to the other day. And you know, it's interesting because the fella is an NRP activist. And he called me and he said, Mark, man, why you object to my worker? This man living in St. John's, why you object to my worker? And I said to him, the CCM did not file any objections. He said, oh, I don't think so. No, I don't think it's not you. His own party object to his worker. They don't know who people are. And instead of going in the community and saying, well, who named John Brown? Who live in church ground? They object to John Brown and say nobody in church ground living there called John Brown. And they force John Brown now to have to go. But I'm asking people, listen, part of the NRP strategy, NRP is hoping that you don't show up and they could somehow try to convince the hearing officer to remove your name. So I beg you all, that date, show up. Walk with your light bill, your water bill, your house rent receipt, walk with your title for your land, whatever it may be, and show them this is where you live. Because it is obvious to me that this is an effort to frustrate people here on the island of Nevis. Hundreds of objections, and all these people are properly registered where they're registered. They're going after, my brother called me, they're going after his children, Brantley. The children don't live here, the children live overseas. But they're properly registered here. But they're going after them. I guess because they named Brantley. It has to stop. And using the court process and the objection process to harass people has to stop. So in this case, I hope young J.D. Keynes know what she's about, because they say, who no pay doctor, pay lawyer. And it looks like some really want to pay lawyers. Because you already took foolish advice, and it looks now like you're doubling down on the foolishness that you're doing. And I am saying to you, it's a matter for you. If you have money stashed away, then so be it. I would have thought your money would have been better spent saving for some lofty purpose, or even putting it towards your election expenses for the next time around if you insist that you will run. I don't know. But throwing money away by appealing, because this wasn't even a question of, well, the judge could have gone left, the judge could have gone right, the judge went left. No. This is something where 100% of the authorities say what the consequences when you file out of time. And it's not for the judge to make things right, as your lawyer begged him to do. Question was, why did your lawyer get it wrong? Why did you and your lawyer get it wrong? And you have money to pay already. We don't know how much the money is yet, but the money is going to be significant. Why go back to compound the situation? To pay more money again? Maybe it is I'm missing something, but I'm sure Minister Brand would welcome whatever he can collect, because all of us are still trying to pay off election expenses. So we welcome the contributions to that. It is 20 minutes to the hour of 10 o'clock. We're taking your calls. 869-469-1616. 869-469-1700. We have 20 minutes. I'm hopeful that persons will call in and be a part of this show. For those who just tuned in, you're listening to On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, and you're tuned in, of course, to the Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse, VON Radio, the voice of Nevis. This is being heard throughout the island, the country, the region, and the world. As, of course, we go through the internet, and because of the power of the internet, we are being heard in far-flung places across the globe. And so for all those who are up and are with us, please pick up the phone and call in if you so desire. Ladies and gentlemen, let me switch attention now to some international matters. I think that we have all heard and been concerned about some geopolitical positioning that we see happening. We have the war that is unfolding in Ukraine, and the majority of the world appears to have aligned themselves with Ukraine and against what is perceived as Russian aggression in its invasion of Ukraine. We also have the concerns that are being raised about China and the rise of China as a world's superpower. The Chinese lay claim to Taiwan. They say that Taiwan is their property, their colony, and that they will forcibly, if necessary, because the government, the Chinese government, has not ruled out the use of force, they will take back Taiwan as part of China. The United States United Kingdom, and Australia have recently signed a significant security agreement which will see the government of Australia securing some nuclear submarines, latest technology, for purposes of enhancing their capability, their military capability, and so better position themselves to wage war, whether offensively or defensively. This is seen as a direct response to the perceived saber-rattling of China within that space, the Taiwan Straits, and of course the ocean surrounding China. Indeed, China has been accused of making new man-made islands in disputed waters, which has put it at loggerheads with other countries such as the Philippines and others in that theater. The Taiwanese are also reporting that Chinese fighter jets have been making more and more incursions into Taiwanese airspace. The US unilaterally has responded by opening up additional air bases within those countries that are surrounding that particular area, which is considered a hotspot. And President Biden has made it clear that if necessary, the United States will go to war to protect Taiwan. Now, why is this of interest to us? It is, of course, of interest to us because we are law-abiding and peace-loving people, and we hold fast to the rule of international law. And the rule of international law is important because it prevents those of us who are small being taken advantage of by those who are large. It seeks to balance as much as is possible the scales. And the value of multilateralism is to allow small countries such as ours an opportunity to have a voice in agencies and organizations such as the United Nations and others. And so we engage as global citizens on these issues. But more importantly, Taiwan is our friend. Taiwan became our friend and ally 1 month after we became independent on the 19th of September 1983. I think it was in November, as a month and a half or so later, that Taiwan forged diplomatic relations with us. But even prior to that, Taiwan had a relationship, and it was the wisdom of our national hero, Sir Kennedy Simmons, who saw the value in initiating formal relations with Taiwan. Since the time of his government, a PAM-NRP government, we have seen a Labour government, then a Labour-NRP government, then a unity government, and now back to a Labour government. And throughout that period, we have maintained solid ties with the government and people of Taiwan. Now, China is a superpower. There is no doubt that in a fight between China and Taiwan, it will be impossible for Taiwan to prevail. Taiwan is a democracy. Taiwan upholds the rule of law. Taiwan holds dear all of those principles that we, as Kittians and Divisions, also hold dear. Taiwan at one point had many allies in the Caribbean, in Africa, in Central America. And China has systematically approached those allies and sought to get them to switch their allegiance and formal diplomatic relations to mainland China. St. Kitts and Nevis has remained resolute. In this year, we celebrate 40 years of independence. We have, for all of those 40 years, been a good friend, a solid and reliable partner to the government and people of Taiwan. Others have switched, others have flipped, others have flopped. We have remained constant. And I believe that Taiwan understands that in St. Kitts and Nevis they have a reliable partner. What has happened, however, is that in addition to its military buildup, China has also engaged in diplomatic efforts. And one by one we see that they are wooing the allies of Taiwan away and therefore seeking to isolate Taiwan internationally. Panama used to be there, Panama is gone. Costa Rica is gone. Countries that used to have relations, Nicaragua is gone. And we now today got news that Honduras, which has long been a partner of Taiwan, has announced that it will be abandoning its ties with Taiwan and instituting diplomatic ties with China. It is clear that Taiwan is a wealthy country, but Taiwan is a small country compared to the might of China. And so whatever Taiwan can do in terms of aid and international cooperation, bilateral engagements with these countries, we know that China can do much more. And China has shown its ability and its willingness to use its checkbook, what is referred to as checkbook diplomacy, and to come and to offer major projects, loans and the like, to allow these countries to move forward. In fact, in Honduras, I'm told they are already negotiating some hydroelectric dam, which is important to the government there. My question is not so much what China and Taiwan are seeking to do, because here in every sense we have a David and Goliath scenario. My question is, what is the United States doing? It is one thing to talk about military buildup and a pact now to supply submarines, nuclear submarines to Australia. It is one thing to build up military bases in that part of the world. It is one thing to saber rattle and to say if China were to make a move that the United States will go to war over Taiwan. But what is happening on the diplomatic front? That is my question. And it is a question that I asked even as I led the diplomatic efforts for this country for 7 years. What is the United States doing to encourage allies of Taiwan to remain allies of Taiwan? Because certainly while Taiwan doesn't have the capacity to match China, the United States has that capacity and more. The occasional phone call from somebody in the United States government to say, hold strain, we want you to remain friends with Taiwan. With respect, that is not enough. The U.S. needs to engage not only with Taiwan, but with Taiwan's remaining allies around the world in a proactive and positive way, or it runs the risk of Taiwan being increasingly isolated diplomatically. And that is of no value to Taiwan and the Taiwanese people. It is of no value to the United States itself and its own geopolitical interests. And so tonight, as I reflect on the news about Honduras switching its allegiance from Taiwan to China, I believe that the answer to this lies in Washington, and that it will and should be a matter for the United States as a matter of diplomatic policy and outreach to engage with the allies of Taiwan in a proactive way and to build out that relationship with Taiwan's allies, to say it is important that you maintain your relationship with Taiwan so that Taiwan is not isolated in this world. Taiwan cannot do it alone. The United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and others who claim that they're supportive of Taiwan should equally, in my view, be supportive of Taiwan's allies, and together create the necessary tapestry, if you will, of support for the 23 million people that call Taiwan home. I am no authority on Taiwan or China, but I've had the benefit of visiting Taiwan. I've had the benefit of engaging with Taiwanese officials, from their president all the way down to persons in the society there. And I have found them to be decent and honorable people who have come over the years and who have assisted in a genuine way the development of St. Kitts and Nevis. It is time, I believe, that the United States and the other great powers of the world who say that they support Taiwan demonstrate that they do so, not just by saber rattling, but by effective diplomacy as well. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Mark, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Yeah, I was so disappointed today when I heard the news as well about the country leaving. And you put these things in proper perspective, you know. You scare me. I didn't mean to call. But I'm here sitting down and listening to your talent. You are so varied in the different things you could discuss. And it remind me of a scripture in the Bible in Hebrews 13:5 as you spoke. Let your manner of life be free of the love of money, while you are content with the present things. For he has said, I will no means leave you, nor by any means forsake you. I believe America have not seen what you're seeing. They have not been putting enough of late in these little countries around to show the value that they had in Taiwan before, to keep it together. And you forced me to call. That is why I still hold on to you as a politician. Keep going. You are so talented, and it gives me that sense of purpose, a wider range of purpose when it comes to you as a politician. I believe you still mean a lot to this country, and I'm kindly asking you again, I'm reminding you, hold on. You're very thoughtful, and it shows you're not just a politician, you're a worldwide leader. You mean well for not only St. Kitts Nevis, but for development of world peace. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much for that, brother, and I really appreciate your comments. But I think that in today's world now, we can't be myopic. We can't be short-sighted. We have to appreciate that events in far-flung places have an impact on us. Caller, you and all of us were forced to pay higher electricity bills because Russia invaded Ukraine. And that led to certain disruptions that caused the cost of oil on the world market to rise. Look how far away we are from Russia and Ukraine. That invasion has caused us, in fact, there was a recent meeting between the United States government and the governments of the Eastern Caribbean that offer citizenship by investment programs. We have now had to commit, all of us, St. Lucia, Grenada, Antigua, Barbuda, Dominica, and St. Kitts and Nevis, that we will not process any Russians or Belarusians in our program. Grenada, for example, I spoke to somebody, a professional in Grenada, just yesterday, and that person indicated that Grenada is now anticipating a significant reduction in revenue as a result of the fact that they will no longer be able to process Russians and Belarusians in their program. I say that to say that a decision taken by President Putin to invade Ukraine is now impacting the people of the Eastern Caribbean higher fuel prices. We can't process Russians and things for our CBI, so we now have to scramble to say, how are we going to deal with those exogenous shocks to us? COVID. They say started in a place called Wuhan in China. I don't know about you, but I will admit that I had never heard of Wuhan prior to COVID. But COVID eventually arrived in our little federation in March of 2020. And you all remember the trauma, the lockdowns, border closures, certain days for supermarket, curfews. You remember the trauma. Again, a far distant land, Wuhan, China. Something happening there that came right here to us in St. Kitts and Nevis. I use these two examples to demonstrate that we are no longer alone in the world. We were never alone. But with technology and with travel being as it is now, we are more and more connected. And so it would be foolish of us to think that something that is happening in Taiwan and China will not affect us. It therefore behooves us, as small as we are, to use the power of multilateralism and the fact that we have a voice in the international fora in the world to raise that voice for what is right. What is right? And we must, if we say we are ourselves a democratic nation with democratic ideals, support democracy around the world, and wherever it is under threat, we must be prepared to speak up. We must, in my view, be especially prepared to speak up for our friends. And Taiwan has not only been a friend to St. Kitts and Nevis, Taiwan has been our best friend. And I say that with no water in my mouth, because I think the evidence is there to demonstrate that Taiwan has been our best friend. From infrastructural development to human development to investment in healthcare, investment in ICT, investment in agriculture, Taiwan has over these last 40 years been a true friend to St. Kitts and Nevis. And I feel that we therefore must stand up, recognizing the limitations that Taiwan has, because Taiwan is the David to the Goliath, which is China. And I do not believe that Taiwan has a slingshot as David did. Taiwan has friends, powerful friends. The United States, Canada, United Kingdom, the European Union. And if they are, as they claim, committed to Taiwan, then my simple argument is that they must also be committed to Taiwan's allies and be prepared to engage with Taiwan's allies in such a way that the ability of China to pick them off, as they picked off Panama, and picked off Nicaragua, and picked off Honduras, that will no longer be the case. We must guard against Taiwan's isolation, and it is in our self-interest as well as our interest as global citizens to say to the world that all of us, all peoples, have a right to live in peace, in freedom, and in democracy. That's our show. The band has struck up. It means we have to go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention this evening. Thank you for all those who call and those who continue to tune into this On The Mark. We had a good time here tonight. I believe we discussed some matters which are important to us, and I'm hopeful that you will listen to this show and that whatever little nuggets there may be, you may take something away. Thank you for all those who call, all those who listen, all those who have been a part of the On The Mark family for all of these years. Thank you, good night, and God bless you.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views